Well, good afternoon, everyone. We took these steps based on our conclusion that Rossiya Segodnya and these 5 subsidiaries are no longer merely fire hoses of Russian government propaganda and disinformation. They are engaged in covert influence activities aimed at undermining American elections and democracies, functioning like a de facto arm of Russia's intelligence apparatus. Today, we're announcing that these Kremlin-backed media outlets are not only playing this covert influence role to undermine democracy in the United States, but also to meddle in the sovereign affairs of countries around the world. RT's expanded covert capabilities allow it to deepen coordination with traditional Russian intelligence services as they work to manipulate the outcome of democratic elections in the United States, but also around the world. For years, RT and its employees have coordinated directly with the Kremlin to support Russian government efforts to influence Moldova's elections, including the October 2024 presidential election. As a result of these findings, today, we're imposing sanctions on 3 entities and 2 individuals for Russia's covert global influence operations, including interference in Moldova's democracy and its upcoming elections. The actions we're exposing today and the actions we exposed last week do not incorporate the full scope of Russia's efforts to undermine democracies. Far from it. In response, today, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada are launching a joint diplomatic campaign to rally allies and partners around the world to join us in addressing the threat posed by RT and other machinery of Russian disinformation and covert influence.
This is about the rest of the world. So last week was very focused on activities in the U.S. Here we're talking about covert activities attempting to subvert democracy and manipulate information environments in the rest of the world. And Jamie may have some examples of this, but I just want to call attention to one of the sentences the Secretary said. He's instructed diplomats globally to share information we have about what Russia is doing and to engage with our partners in trying to remove this threat to democracy and accurate information.
And remember, you've asked questions for Matt for months and months about, the global South and why there's not more support for Ukraine in this part of the Middle East or that part of Latin America or this part of Africa. Well, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why so much of the world has not been as fully supportive of Ukraine as you would think they would be, given that Russia has invaded Ukraine and violated rule number 1 of the international system, is because of the broad scope and reach of RT, where propaganda, disinformation, and lies are spread to millions, if not billions, of people around the world.
That was announced today. That was directed at a domestic Russian audience, and was it on Russian platforms? Is there any indication that this was on any U.S.-owned platforms?
My understanding of that is it's on Russian platforms, but it's run by RT secretly. They don't say, this is an RT operation, by UAVs from, and some of that we discovered were UAVs purchased from the People's Republic of China in small amounts to send to the Russian army. So that's not what a TV station normally does. That's what a military entity does. But what RT is doing in Argentina, in Germany, in France, in the countries when Jim came back from his last trip, and there were upcoming elections, and they saw the ways in which Russian influence. The Secretary talked about Moldova. I think that's probably the most important thing, where we're seeing clear evidence that the RT is going to be used to try to manipulate an election, and if they don't win the election, manipulate a crowd to try to generate violence for the possibility of overthrowing.
They're playing our music. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.